The owner's manual for the MK4 Ford Focus is quite greedy when it comes to the maintenance interval information, and owners are supposed to rely on reminders and warnings popping up on the dash. So I've used the latest Ford's manual issued in 2024 and compiled the list of service intervals for this generation of the Focus. I hope it will be helpful. In a lot of countries, Ford recommends changing oil and filter once every 2 years, which is wild, and you should ignore this if you want to drive your car for a long time without super expensive repairs. It's a good idea to change oil and oil filter in accordance with older recommendations once every 15,000 kilometers, or 9,000 miles, or 1 year, whatever comes first. Actually, if you have the 1.0 EcoBoost, it's better to reduce that interval to 10,000 kilometers or 6,000 miles because of the wet belt system, especially if you mainly drive short distances. Also, the vehicle is equipped with intelligent oil life monitor, so under certain driving styles and conditions, the vehicle may recommend you to change oil earlier than that. Also, at every oil change, Ford recommends tire rotation unless you use different tire sets for various seasons and rotate them when you go from winter to summer tires. Cabin filter is recommended to be replaced once every 20,000 miles or 30,000 kilometers or 2 years. But if you drive in dusty areas, it makes sense to change it more often to improve air quality in your car. Engine air filter should be changed once every 30,000 miles, 45,000 kilometers or 3 years. Again, dusty areas make it a good idea to change it more often. Brake fluid is recommended to be changed once every 2 years, but this interval depends on the level of humidity in your area. There are simple testers that detect the amount of water in brake fluid, and you can use them to identify the proper change interval, even though the manual strictly says it's 2 years. The initial coolant change interval is 100,000 miles, 160,000 kilometers or 10 years. After that, unless you use a super expensive Ford's premium OEM coolant, it's once every 5 years or 50k miles. Also, these spark plugs can last about 100,000 miles, but if you install non-OEM plugs at this point, the next replacement should be once every 30-40,000 miles or 50-60,000 kilometers. Now the transmission fluids. Although Ford claims that all transmissions and gearboxes in the Focus MK4 are sealed for life, it's not a very good decision to follow that recommendation. For all transmissions, I would change oil once every 40-50,000 miles. Manual gearboxes are quite good, so you may extend that interval to 100,000 miles, 150,000 kilometers, but all automatic transmissions require more often oil change. The 7-speed dual-clutch transmission is 7 DCT300 Getrag unit, and the majority of brands using this transmission recommend changing oil once every 50,000 miles or 80,000 kilometers. This is wet clutch transmission and it needs clean oil to operate properly. The 8-speed conventional automatic transmission allows you to change about half of its oil during regular change, so it makes sense to do this partial oil refresh quite often. Finally, when it comes to engine timing system, there are some even wilder intervals. The 1.0 EcoBoost engine has the wet belt, which is recommended to change once every 100,000 miles or 160,000 kilometers. This is insane, since the belt will most likely degrade and contaminate oil at this mileage, leading to oil filter and oil intake contamination and oil starvation. So I would say changing it once every 60,000 miles or 100,000 kilometers is a safe interval. For the 1.5 EcoBlue, the pre-facelift versions had very bad chain between camshafts that could easily elongate and jump. So this one requires replacement along with the belt at about 60,000 miles or 100,000 kilometers. The manual says that the chain is non-serviceable and the belt should be changed at 100,000 miles, which is again very wild. The 2-liter EcoBlue has the wet belt, which is like the 1.0 EcoBoost, a big problem and should be replaced once every 60k miles. So to cut a long story short, whatever engine you have, it's a very good idea to change the timing belts and chains at 60,000 miles or 100,000 kilometers to avoid very expensive problems.